welcome to today's vlog. Today is the first of the Coffee with Dan days, but that's not till later on. So what I'm doing right now is getting my head round one of the tracks I'm going to be playing at this very special Celebration of Blue Note gig at the Cambridge Arts Theatre on the 15th of October. The tickets are not yet on sale. They will be on sale, I think, where are we now? Yeah, next week. So I will post a link to them. But one of the tracks we're going to be doing is the Sidney Bechet version of Summertime. Feeling comfortable nearly that I've got most of it half down by now. What I mean by half down is I can get all the notes in. I need to add the inflections and trying to really dig under what he's doing and try and get my head around it. I've just done like 10 minutes of long tones with the app I showed you before, the TE app, and now I'm flat, which probably means Bechet sharp. Interesting fact that actually, we came across it on Cambridge Saxophone doing a Lester Young transcription. A at 440, in other words concert pitch, you know, what we presume to be the fixed pitch today, has only been a convention since the 1950s. So a lot of recordings before the 1950s feature various different tunings because, you know, either tuned to the guitar or the piano that was there. Some were sharper, some were flatter. I can't get my words out this morning. These sunglasses have arrived, so going out for a little walk. I'm actually going to go out and shoot you some more time lapses. Traffic make really good time lapses if you can get it just right, so I'm hoping there'll be enough traffic on the motorway now to be able to get some decent shots, and I'll be able to balance the camera on certain aspects of it. So that's what I'm up to now, because the sun has finally come back out again. One of the hardest things I find in my job as a musician or doing digital stuff is that you have to spend a lot of your time inside. It's just the nature of the thing. Like today, I probably could have done with doing another hour of practice. I love being outside, I love exploring, I love the fresh air, the sunlight. I don't know how I get what I love doing married in with going outside, apart from doing what I'm doing now, which is making films, which is why I love making YouTube videos, because it makes me get out there and allows me to get out there and create outside, which I really love doing. Didn't dare leave the DSLR on the tripod as on the bridge. It was just a bit too scary. Moved a little bit too much in that wind, so. I'm really delighted for my first Coffee with Dan, hopefully not the last one, I'm pretty certain it won't be. I have all the way from New Hampshire in the United States, Nick Mainella, who is the author, kind of man behind the 10-Minute Jazz podcast, which I've got to say I've been listening to. It's listed below. It's a fantastic resource. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm great, Dan. How are you, man? Thank you so much for having me. I've got my coffee ready to go so that we can have coffee together.
Great. That's the first question, man. What's your favorite coffee?
Oh, you know, I got to say, there's so many great little cafes around town that I really only make coffee at home when I'm in a real jam. So usually my favorite thing to do is I've got like kind of a rotation of 5 different cafes that I hop around to in town. So I don't know. I don't really have. I am enjoying the cold brew at many of the cafes that I've been going to lately. And I also enjoy a good old French press when I'm at home.
So just give me a little intro about kind of very quickly about your musical journey and kind of how you got round to sort of doing the 10-Minute Jazz podcast.
Yeah, so I'm you know, what you would call a classically trained musician. I did my undergrad, got a performance degree in actually New Hampshire. That's where I'm I grew up. That's where I'm from. And then I went out to do my graduate work out at Western Michigan University. So quite a big change for me. I moved about halfway across the country. Did a bunch of work out there, which turned out to be one of the most fantastic things I ever did. I had never been out to the Midwest, and it turns out there's a huge jazz scene out there that I didn't even know about. You know, when we grow up on the coasts in the United States, we're kind of snobs. We think that nothing goes on in the middle of the country. And it really changed my opinion on things. I met a lot of great people, made a lot of connections out there. So then when I moved back to the Boston area after I was done with my studies, I started really getting into the online world. I started to see that this was kind of a new thing in the world of musicians. You know, I was watching YouTube videos, getting great advice from world famous musicians. And I also got really into podcasts because obviously, as we know, as musicians, we spend half of our lives in the car, right? So started getting really, really into podcasts, and then ended up sort of realizing that there was nothing out there in this niche as far as online jazz lessons in a podcast form. Like I said, a lot of YouTube videos, but nothing that you could kind of listen to in the car or while you're doing chores or whatever. So I decided to start it about a year and probably about 13 or 14 months ago. And I've found people from all over the world that really enjoy just like a short little bite-sized jazz lesson every week. And
what's catching my eye though, man, are those fantastic paintings behind me. You'll have to let me. So the
well,
Coltrane one is the other one Monk, is it?
Yeah, I've got these are my wife's paintings. She is one of the most fantastic oil painters that I've ever met in my life. Wow. And she's currently working on a whole set of jazz musician paintings.
Wow.
She absolutely loves painting instrumentalists and vocalists. So I didn't even realize that's a free plug for my wife there. Yeah. But
make sure you get a 5% commission.
Exactly.
So what's a typical week like for you, Nick? Are you teaching most of it? Do you gig, or is it kind of is the beauty is there is no typical week, or what is there?
Yeah, I would say a typical week for me is, you know, I teach a lot of after school lessons, got a big private student studio. And, you know, on top of running the online business. So, you know, kind of mornings are for practicing, waking up and getting my fresh energy into the saxophone. And then, you know, this is what I love about teaching private lessons is that I really don't have to be anywhere until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which is such a beautiful thing for musicians. And then a lot of gigging. You know, I play with a local band around here called the Soggy Po Boys. We do a lot of New Orleans inspired stuff. And then also freelancing, like I think that we probably all do, right? So that's a typical week for me. What about you? I mean, are you playing a lot of gigs every single week?
I've kind of I cut down. I'm very fortunate that I've got to a position now where I can slightly cut down on the kind of depping in with other people's bands. I mean, still sometimes happens, but you know, those phone calls where you've suddenly got to go in and sight read charts when the drummer's working to a click track, and thankfully quite a bit way behind me now. I mean, particularly as my children are getting a little bit older, it's getting kind of, I'm more and more conscious about making sure that they get some quality time with me, because kind of, like you have with evenings. I mean, I was in the same boat you were in. It's great not having to work in the mornings, but then kind of that's kind of key family time sometimes. So I'm pretty disciplined. I'll try and take one day off a week, although saying that my day off was supposed to be tomorrow, and I've taken a gig on, so it's kind of like
seems to disappear. So I have a question for you about the vlog, because I feel like it's very different from what I'm doing. Like I can sit down and in my studio and I can record my 10 to 15 minute podcast and kind of wrap it up within a couple of hours, you know, and then sit down and edit it. So how challenging is it to kind of remember to film almost everything that you're doing every day?
I mean, I don't, there'll be some days I don't vlog, and they're actually quite relaxing, but it's always trying to keep a story going, trying to have some kind of form of topic, and then trying to think almost like a three-act play kind of thing, at least, kind of like 3 different sections. But quite often I'll get a vlog idea and I'll write it on the whiteboard, and I'll write another one on the whiteboard, and I just kind of, if I'm stuck for ideas, I'll look at that board and think, how do I execute that idea? because getting the ideas for me is actually not the hard part, it's executing them is the hard part. So kind of finding an idea and going, okay, yeah, that'll work. How does that look? And then kind of using some improvisational skills as I go along. What are your three, if you only could take 3 discs or 3 albums away on a desert island, your desert island disc, what would those 3 be?
Oh, that's really, really good question. All right, I'm going to think of something that April in Paris, Count Basie Orchestra, because I grew up on that record, and it is one of the most important documented recordings in my life. It basically led me to where I am today. I still listen to it all the time. Let's see. I'd have to say Joe Henderson, Our Thing. That is one of my favorite records of all time. So that would be like kind of my Blue Note era record that I think I'd take with me. And then I would have to say the Joe Lovano Nanette record, the first one, On This, no, not On This Day, that's the second one. It's the one with all the Tad Dameron tunes on it. Yeah. I forget what the title of, I should remember it if it's one of my favorite records ever, but that was really a record where when I was starting to get very, very serious about playing saxophone and very, very serious about the music, that was about the heaviest record that I could find. And it still fascinates me to this day, the depth of Lovano's playing. And George Garzone is on that record, who's one of my favorite musicians ever. And, you know, Lewis Nash is playing drums. It's just a masterpiece. So I think those would be my 3. I know they're all basically saxophone records, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, totally.
So what about you? You said you got this question dropped on you, right?
Yeah. So I would definitely Coltrane's Love Supreme.
Okay.
Definitely be on there just for this kind of everything I've done. I mean, I did my third year thesis on that at college, kind of. So it's something I've studied quite intensely. The second one would be Branford Marsalis's Eternal album, which is his ballads album.
Oh, great! That's a great record.
I just love it. It's one of those albums I keep coming back to, both to listen to and to transcribe and play along to and all those kind of things. It's definitely one of my favourites. And the third one was actually a piece I did studied in A-level here, so it's kind of like your kind of diploma for high school. It was the Dvorak Cello Concerto. Which is just a phenomenal piece of music, and it's kind of a very close one between that and the Rachmaninoff Third Piano Concerto, just to try and get something. But then there's also, I don't know, it's like Beethoven string quartets that I like as well, and that's
it's so hard to pick.
Yeah, it's kind of, and sometimes with as a jazz musician, you as you say, you can sometimes get sucked down into the rabbit hole of jazz music. And actually, one of the things that saves me when I'm feeling pretty fed up, because it's kind of like Chris Potter can play better than me, Joshua Redman can play better than me, and Bob Reynolds can play better than me, and all it is, I kind of put away all those jazz records and I just go, okay, let's listen to some opera for a while. It's been so good to talk to you, Nick. I know you've got to fly up because you've got another appointment, but thank you for connecting, man. It's been really great to be my first Coffee with Dan guest. So thanks very much, Nick. Take care, mate.
Yeah, you too, Dan. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
What a super nice guy to have on for the very first Coffee with Dan series. There will be more. I'm hoping there'll be a very, very exciting one on Monday, but I'll watch this space. I'm still got to get confirmation from the person I'm hoping will meet me for coffee and that they're okay for it to be filmed. But check out Nick's 10-Minute Jazz podcast below and his website and his music. Please do support other musicians who are taking this big step out in the world of the internet. Nick's a really, really great player and a really great idea with that 10-Minute Jazz podcast. So I hope you'll support them as much as you've supported me. Of course, by supporting me, you'll be one of my subscribers. If you are, you know how much I love you. If you're not quite sure, then go on, hit that button. It won't make a difference so much to you, but it'll make a huge difference to me, because it'll mean that I'm able to make better videos for you, because YouTube give me more tools and more workshops and loads more things the more subscribers I get, which is kind of weird, because the more successful you get, the more support they give you. But that's kind of the way the world works these days, isn't it? I will be vlogging again tomorrow. I have a very exciting gig over at Twickenham, which is kind of, if I'm here, kind of London's here, I've got to go all the way around the other side of London. So enjoy a vlog with me, probably sat in a traffic jam for 90% of it. Thank you very much for watching today. I hope you will be back again tomorrow, and I will see you very, very soon.